Avery IPA. It's the good stuff. Hi there, Sage Candy of VO2 Max Productions here with another training talk. Today we're going to talk about combating stiffness, muscular, basically fatigue and pain in the later stages of an ultra. This was brought up, the topic, in my last training talk by a user, Bring In the Kids, I believe is the name. You guys voted for it, so thanks for commenting and voting for this topic. But it was, how do you deal with the stiffness, the aching, the pain in like a 50-mile ultra-marathon trail race? Or I think this is applicable to marathon or any race, half marathon maybe even for some people, all the way on up in distance. But it's a real common thing, and it's something I deal with a lot. I could look back on basically all my ultra trail races. We'll fast forward to last year at the North Face 50 Mile Endurance Challenge Championships in San Francisco last December 2014. I was making a break. I took the lead about 16 miles into the race. So I'm running these hilly hills in Marin Headlands, California. It's muddy, I'm slipping, facing all sorts of issues in the second half of the race. We took it out pretty aggressively, so that race always goes out aggressively. And so I'm running, hard, and up and down hills hard, scared in the lead, whatever. Having stomach issues from drinking too much Coke and too much sugar at once. I'm puking all over, I'm peeling off in the bushes, going to the bathroom. It's not a good race, but Dakota Jones passes me at mile 38, and it's this battle, and my legs are freaking hurting. They were hurting 20 miles in, and you're on the verge of cramping, you're on the verge of having, you've got stiffness in your quads when you start bombing down hills, and it's pain that you have to fight through. And I don't think I've run very many ultras where I didn't have a lot of that kind of pain for the last like 20 miles in a race. Last 10 miles of speed goat, brutal. You're pulling this muscle tension when you're trying to power hike uphill. You're pounding the quads on downhills. And this can manifest itself in shorter races. Boston Marathon, for example, a lot of runners you see, they start too fast on the downhill. The first 3 miles are very downhill at Boston, and if you go out too fast, you cause a lot of quad damage. And it comes back to haunt you later in the race, maybe when you're trying to go down Heartbreak Hill at mile 21, or you're even trying to climb the Newton Hills at Boston. Or it could happen in a flat marathon race as well. Muscular fatigue, muscle shutdown. It can be devastating. It's also very painful. So I guess my short answer is it's kind of inevitable, but the best way to prepare yourself for it is what I'll talk about in this training talk. And the best ways to kind of fight through it, to train for it, and why it happens, I guess. So the first premise we'll take is a premise that I always take in my training talks. It's also a premise we take in our book, The Sage Running Secret, A Guide to Speedy Ultras, available on sagerunning.com. That's a plug. Is that you have these two systems: your skeletal muscular system, muscles, tendons, bones, you name it, and then your aerobic system, cardiovascular system, heart, lungs, mitochondria, blood vessels, capillary beds, so that system. But the skeletal muscular system is a lot more fragile. And in these races, especially marathon on up, we look at what limiting factors of performance are, and it's going to be your skeletal muscular system usually. In shorter races, track races, the mile, 5K, it's lactic acid going into your muscles, and you're, over your threshold, you're breathing really hard, and your muscles can't fire in that acidic environment. Well, in these ultra races, it's the muscle pounding, glycogen depletion, which can manifest itself as skeletal muscular pain, dehydration, things like that could really tear apart your race. So when you look at it as events that you're running, let's say over 20 miles, racing hard, especially in the mountains with big elevation profile changes, is that the muscles and tendons in your legs are going through hell. It's a lot of pounding, it's a lot of force. It's something that a lot of people, you don't go out and run 50 miles in training. Most people don't, at least. I never have. But then you have to do 50 miles all at once in a day for a race, or 100 miles, or something crazy. So your leg muscles, to prepare for that, you have to really callus them. And I think back to the book with Dick Beardsley, Duel in the Sun, Dick Beardsley versus Alberto Salazar, Boston Marathon back in the day. There's this part where in the book where it says every night Dick would punch himself in the quad 500 times while he was watching TV because he wanted to toughen up those quads. So just imagine that he's trying to callus his muscles, his quad muscles, to get tough and stiff so he could fly down, run the Boston Marathon at sub 5 minute mile pace or whatever. Definitely under 5 minute mile pace. And so you have to take that kind of approach. You need to callus your muscles through a lot of training. And most of you guys, you got obligations, family obligations, work obligations. You don't have time to train 4 hours a day. And you can't really run 4 hours a day because you break down, you get a stress fracture, you get injured, you get tendonitis. So you want to callus your legs as much as possible. What do? Well, having consistent mileage is going to help. The higher mileage that you could run, that you could handle without overtraining or stressing yourself, obviously is going to build up a lot of strength. And the name of the game really in endurance events is strength. Strength, stamina, then speed. So to have the muscular strength, skeletal muscular strength, from doing a lot of hill training, a lot of ups and downs, as well as consistent higher mileage than what you're used to, and then quality long runs, I think are those the keys that are going to get you and your leg muscles most prepared. And that's just looking at the skeletal muscular strength thing. You also have amazing fat burning capacities, aerobic adaptations, heart and lung efficiency. That's going to also help you a ton in these endurance events. But you look at it, specific callousing of the legs, of the skeletal muscular system. For example, like before the Boston Marathon this year, I ran Boston in a slower time than my marathon PR, but I consider my Boston performance, getting 16th place at the Boston Marathon this year, to be my best marathon performance ever. If you look at traditionally on a good weather day, that would be at least a 2:16 type of time. If we had a nice weather, maybe a little tailwind, I don't know. But how did I callus my legs for that? Well, I did some downhill downhill workouts here in Boulder, down the canyon bike path. It's a nice little downhill 5K. I ran that, at sub 5 minute mile pace, get the quads beat up. Do mountain training, you do a lot of ups and downs and descents, get used to the course profile that you're going to encounter. And that's going to callus your legs. That's going to help a lot, as well as not lollygagging on some of your long runs, doing specific long runs where you're spending a lot of time on your feet, you're spending a lot of time in the mountains, on trails, that mimics the course that you need to run. So specific demands, specific training, specific demands of your body is going to lead to specific adaptations, and that's really what you want. Now, when you look at the causes of skeletal muscular fatigue, of your quads blowing out and the pain, a lot of people will be like, oh, it's your electrolyte imbalance causes cramping, and it does. But I think usually for most people, as long as you're taking in consistent fluids, you're taking in some nutrition, you're not totally bonking, not running out of glycogen, still keeping the blood sugar at a reasonable level, taking in some sodium, potassium through sports drinks or chips or bananas or whatever, your skeletal muscular fatigue is probably caused by sheer muscle failure rather than an electrolyte imbalance. And I've worked through the worst muscle cramps ever, actually, in races that weren't even ultras. New York City Marathon, Sarah Zinal mountain race, 20-mile mountain race, and the Jungfrau mountain marathon. Debilitating muscle cramps. These weren't even ultra marathons. These were less than 26.2. But I'm running up at Jungfrau with this 5,000 foot climb, and I've been torquing on my muscles really hard trying to run fast. And basically my cardiovascular system can support this hard uphill push, but my leg muscles, after a while, all that muscle tension, they decided to seize up. Same thing at Sarah Zinal, 20-mile mountain race only. Hard uphill climbing, hamstrings, calves seized up, cramping. I'm like stopped over, hunched over on the trail, just yelling in pain because it's this excruciating muscle cramp. And I have to like try to stretch it out just to even keep moving again, just to get moving. And you'll find in the latter stages of an ultra, as you start getting glycogen depletion, or you start getting pretty depleted, your muscles are on a fine edge of kind of seizing up, of kind of cramping. And that could be because you're riding that fine line. But most of the horror stories you hear from these ultras, Tarawera, my first time at the Tarawera 100K New Zealand, couldn't run downhill anymore in the last 10 miles of the race. Absolutely not running downhill, could still run uphill, but I blew up my quads early in the race by running downhills too fast, too early. It's the same thing you see at, UTMB or some other big mountain race, long mountain races. People run the first downhills too fast and they get that muscle damage in their quads usually. Later on in the race, they're not able to move very well, especially on the downhills, but you can't climb as well usually either, or your overall pace just slows down. So you really have to look at that. Callus the legs, get them tough, work through the pain. And if you're gonna be pushing yourself in an ultra or marathon, it's inevitable that you will be in some muscular skeletal discomfort probably. There's no way around it. Every race that I've run hard, if you're running hard to your limit, you're gonna have to work through quite a bit of pain, I guess. That's what I'm gonna say. But there's ways that you could minimize that, and that's through the higher mileage training, the vertical. Maybe looking into doing single leg squats in the gym, other exercises, drills. Speed training is gonna help get the legs to develop higher muscle tension. And so it's about, not totally blowing a gasket, not totally blowing your quads out, so that you could finish the race in the fastest time possible, or your most efficient way possible. But if you're running at your limit, you're going to be pushing the limit on your skeletal muscular system, and you're going to definitely be hurting. I haven't run a race, marathon or ultra, where my legs weren't in a pretty high level of discomfort. Of course, other things could go terribly wrong. Stomach issues, stomach cramping, stomach pain, maybe some lactic acid, high levels of lactate on a steep uphill in the latter stages of a race when your heart rate can get up pretty high. But generally, you're going to be limited by your skeletal muscular system in these events, as long as your nutrition and fueling's going to plan. So that's my long training talk rant on the skeletal muscular fatigue in ultramarathons. Of course, it does vary by your sweat rate and things like that, the temperatures and weather environments you're running in, how technical the trail is, how much climbing there is, what the weather conditions are. But that's kind of the gist of it, and that's kind of the whole basis of strength is speed, I guess, is what we could say. And I'll get more into this as we talk in more future training talk topics. Still want to do a cross-training video with the bike involved. Got to show off my new toy, but really, thanks for all the views, thanks for all the support. We're going to touch on nutrition more as well in the future. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I think I put it up in the corner, one of these corners here. Click that button, subscribe, and I hope your fall trainings and racing is going really well. I appreciate all the feedback and comments and support. Be sure to vote for a future training talk topic, as well as comment below. Really do appreciate all the views. So thanks for sharing it on social media. Check me out on social media. I'm at Sage Canaday on Twitter and Twitter and Instagram. Facebook is Sage Canaday fan page. So thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. And stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions.